morning and welcome again to Safety Corner. My name is Paul Orukamayan. This morning we're going to be talking about the content of a first aid kit. First aid kit is as important as you could find your fire extinguisher in your house, in your car, and so on. First of all, let me just briefly tell us what is called a first aid kit. A first aid kit is any container that is waterproof that carries some medical and first aid supply. It's most time clearly marked with a red sign, a red cross sign, a white cross sign, or a green cross sign. This morning we're going to look at what are the basic things. We call it the minimum standard of a first aid kit. The minimum standard of content inside the first aid kit. First, I will start by telling us in the kit, normally you should have what we call a quick first aid guide. A guide that is going to guide anybody who is not a trained first aider. For example, somebody sustained an injury and is not a first aider. He just opened the first aid kit and open to the page on the injury, and it's going to be directed quickly on what to do. The second thing we should have in a first aid kit is hand glove. Hand glove is one important thing because it prevents you from coming in contact with anybody's fluid, which can transmit infection. And for every first aid kit, even if there's no other thing, you should at least have what we call an hand glove. And when hand glove is not available, you could also use a simple waterproof to replace an hand glove. Also, in the first aid kit, we have what is called a triangular bandage, which is a multi-purpose tool. A triangular bandage is eventually a scarf in its shape. It's made up of a cotton. For anybody who has bleeding, for example, you could use this to form a pad, quickly wrap it, and put it on top of the bleeding spot and your bandage. When you tie it, the bleeding is going to clot, and you've already started the healing process. Also, in the first aid kit, we have what we call a compressed bandage. A compressed bandage is a roll bandage where you see every day. You might see it, but you don't know why it is called a compressed bandage. It have an elastic structure like this, that when after putting a pad in a bleeding spot, you use it to bandage. Also, this compressed bandage can also be used for somebody who have dislocation, or probably an athlete who is playing football and is usually frequent with muscle pull. You could use it to guide his or her muscles. In the first aid kit, we also have what we call a forceps. A forceps enables you to pick contents, most especially when you have death in the wound. You might need to pick it out because any injury that have a single atom of death is going to be contaminated and it does not get ill. In the first aid kit also, we have what we call scissors. We have what we call scissors in the first aid kit, and your scissors help you to cut things. It's going to help you to cut things when you are walking. Also, we have what we call a tweezer. A tweezer could help you pick something from the kit like this, and it makes you not contaminate the rest of the content in the kit. In the first aid kit also, we have what we call a nose mask. A nose mask helps you to reduce the effect of blood or excessive odor in an environment. You know, sometimes blood can also be irritating to somebody, so you just put it on your nose like this, and you can walk safely. With this, you are sure that nothing will come to your mouth or your nose in the process of walking. We also have what we call a gauze. We call it a sterile gauze. We have a sterile gauze. Sterile gauze is mostly used when you have a wound, for example, which we also call a minor injury. You could use it to clean and cover the wound. For athletes, we also have what we call a relief. We call it an ointment. This is called a deep heat spray. when you are involved in a football match and you have strain or sprain, you could also use it to quickly relieve the pain while the doctors do the rest later. We also in the first aid kit have what we call a plaster. If you manage an injury, let's take for example a minor injury, you might need a plaster to be able to treat it, to be able to seal it. The plaster comes in two types. One is this is called an heat-resistant plaster, and this is called a firm adhesive plaster. Both of them actually serve different purpose. In some injury, we're going to have dirt, which you have sand, for example, and you might need to clean. Let me make the distinction here. If somebody is having an excessive bleeding, you don't need to clean. But if somebody have bruises, for example, you might need to clean and disinfect the affected part. You will also use what we call the NCP, formerly called the TCP. This automatically replaces what we call spirit and iodine or the GV in the first aid kit. This is a replacement for it to this effect. Now let me go in depth in the first aid kit. In the first aid kit, we also have what we call a thermometer. Today you see children die as a result of excessive heat. We call it convulsion. So you have a thermometer, like a few days ago we looked at the Ebola case where you have to monitor the temperature of any person. So you have a digital thermometer in the first aid kit. These are basically called content, a minimum standard content of a first aid box. Like I re-emphasize, first aid does not actually mean the box itself. It could be a box, it could be a bag, it could be a bag which is waterproof. Before I leave, I want to tell you, it is good for every vehicle to have a first aid kit. It's good for every office to have a first aid kit. Every home should have a first aid kit. When you have a first aid kit in the house, it doesn't mean that you are proposing to have an injury. However, that first aid kit you refuse to have today could also be the kit that is going to save your life when there is an injury. When you have it in an office and you have it in your car, please place it in a visible position so that whoever comes into the house in time of emergency and is not familiar with the house, we should be able to make use of this first aid kit in case you are the one. My name remains Paul Orukamayan.